एकम् अक्षरं हृदि निरन्तरं भासते स्वयं लिख्यते ततम्। हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं बिम्बमात्रम् यहम् इति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति। हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मुच्यता आत्मनिष्ठो देहं ब्रह्मणः जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तद्भावशुक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भाव ओहं भायुः कुतो वरधिय दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। Namo Ramana. In this, the Thursday Satsang from Ramanacentre for Learning, it has been our practice to select 2 verses from the work Guru Vachka Kovai. The verses selected at random by Ms. Revati will be read one after the other. Each verse reading will be followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that will be followed by the practice of self-enquiry for about 15 minutes. After these 2 segments of verse reading, meditation on its meaning, and the practice of Atma Vichara are completed, there will be summing up remarks by Shri Venkatesh Deshpande ji, and that will be followed by the offering of Sri Ramana Stotram. The chanting will be by Vaibhav ji and Pratnama online. Today the puja team is not here, so the rest of us will practice Atma Vicharam there as to who is the real listener. Who is the listener will be the quest when the chanting is going on. We begin the satsang by taking up the first verse selected for us today, verse number 414. 414 we get in the very first segment. The three segments into which the book is divided is investigation into truth, meditation on the truth, and the other is the truth. 414 we find in investigation into truth, and the subheading is authentic tapas. Authentic tapas, clinging to the feet of the Supreme Lord to effect the complete destruction of the jiva's sense of doing is the union that takes the form of devotion. This is the path of Siddhanta, clinging to the feet of the Supreme Lord to effect the complete destruction of the jiva's sense of doing is the union that takes the form of devotion. This is the path of Siddhanta. The Supreme Swarupa is one's own truth that shines as the bliss of jnana. The Supreme Swarupa is one's own truth that shines as the bliss of jnana. The union that takes the form of abiding in it, affecting the laws of jiva bodha, the individual consciousness, through the inquiry, who am I, is the path of Vedanta. So the path of Vedanta is given in the second part. The Supreme Swarupa is one's own truth that shines as the bliss of jnana. The union that takes the form of abiding in the jnana, affecting the laws of jiva bodha, the individual consciousness, through the inquiry, who am I, is the path of Vedanta. So, what is authentic tapas? What is mahadidam tapo? Ahamapetakam, nijavibhanakam, mahadidam tapo, ramanavagyam. In Upadesha Saram, Bhagavan says, the destruction of the individual consciousness and the shining of the Swaswarupa is the Mahadidam Tapo, Mahat Tapas. What is the authentic tapas? Authentic tapas, Bhagavan gives both surrender and the Jnana Vichara. Surrender being the path of Siddhanta and the destruction of the separate consciousness as Jiva Bodha as Vedanta. Now in the Siddhanta Marga, we cling to the feet of the Lord who is the real doer and drop our doership. It is like saying that we are seeing actions going on, but then there is no doership on the part of the individuals. The individuals are all controlled by the one doer or the one Sannidhi of the Ishvara. Bhagavan says the Ishvara is like the sun. Like in the sun's presence, the actions of the world are going on automatically or spontaneously, whichever word you want to use. Similarly, it is in the presence of Ishvara, who is merely self-luminously shining. In that Sannidhi, in that presence, the actions are going on spontaneously. Many times, this spontaneous action is misunderstood that I act spontaneously. All my actions are with spontaneity. The moment I say that my actions are spontaneous, then that spontaneity is gone. Whereas the actions are really spontaneous or by automatic divine activity, by clinging to the Lord's feet, that how could I have done this? The more and more you surrender, the more and more you see what breakthroughs have been given by God to you, that these things you could not have thought of. These happenings in my life, I could not have thought of. Automatically, there is a continuous thinking of that one thought of God. When you think that one thought alone, that Ramana alone is the real doer, then all actions are surrendered. One understands that no individual is a doer. At that point, one's own doership goes. Even if I say that one of the beings in God's kingdom is a doer, then I too am a doer. That is the path of Siddhanta, of surrender. In the path of Vedanta, one has to seek the truth of one's own I. Who am I is called as seeking the truth of the I. What is the truth of my Swarupa? The I is first identified with the physical body, and throughout the waking state, it identifies like that, and all the vyavahara are done like that. The identification is reinforced. And in dream state, it identifies with the whatever dream identity is there. But in waking state itself, we have the subtle body where we have the identity, mental identity in various roles. The identity is the root of attachment, says Bhagavan. The attachment with friends, the attachment in work, the attachment to the world is not of great significance, says Bhagavan. All those, you can see the separation. Whereas the attachment to the body, the attachment to the mental identity is being one. The Jiva Bodha, it intermingles with the identity. It feels one with the body. It feels one with the identity as father, as mother, as banker, as lawyer, whatever. So Bhagavan says that is the root ajnana. So in one of the discussions, when somebody asks, is this worship of God with form not ajnana? Bhagavan says that ajnana has some benefits, but the root ajnana, you are missing out, that you are calling yourself, forget whether God has form or not. The worship of God with form will have some benefits because you are aggregating all the objects as one. Whereas you are worshipping yourself as this body throughout the day, you are worshipping yourself as the mental identity. Are you that? So in Vedanta, what we do, we inquire into the truth of the I. Either way, in Vedantic inquiry also, we come to find out the truth of Siddhantic inquiry. Oh, this is what they mean by dropping doership. But the way of expression in Vedanta is that the individual is non-existent. Now, when somebody is non-existent, how can such a one have doership? All the actions are also non-existent. Only the self-luminous self has real existence. Therefore, the non-doership part of Siddhanta is automatically included in the understanding of the Vedantic truth of Swaswarupa Anusandhanam. We are not inquiring into our truth in vacuum. We are inquiring into our truth in the presence of the truth of the Supreme. The presence of the truth of the Supreme is always there. Even that, in that, we are inquiring. And the very action of inquiry will be found to be non-existent when the inquirer vanishes. That I was devoted, first I surrendered, then I inquired, and then the I vanished. These thoughts are also not there in the self-luminous self. That is why surrender and vichara are called as authentic tapas under this verse. Let us sit in Atma Vicharam, the Swarupa Anusandhanam, Swaswarupa Anusandhanam for the next 15 minutes. Would you Junji will trouble you for the time.
भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang by taking up the second verse selected for us, 732. 732 we find in meditation on the truth. The subsegment is Bhakti and Vichara, the inseparable nature of Bhakti and Jnana. In Bhakti and Vichara, the inseparable nature of Bhakti and Jnana, 732. If a person desiring Shiva's grace investigates who is the one who takes refuge in him, the unshakable support, then the ego Anava will perish and become Shivam, the firmament of grace. If a person desiring Shiva's grace investigates who is the one who takes refuge in him, the unshakable support, then the ego Anava will perish and become Shivam, the firmament of grace. Firmament means space, the Akasha. The stars are in the firmament. After the ego has died, having become a prey to Shivam, the firmament of grace, there will be no connection with any of the defilements, malas. After the ego has died, having become a prey to Shivam, the firmament of grace, there will be no connection with any of the malas. In Siddhanta, the path of Bhakti, three types of malas or defilements are said to keep us separate from Shiva. And Anava is one of those malas. So the dropping of the three types of malas are through surrender, purifying ourselves, is what brings us to Shiva. Shiva, who is Shiva? Shiva is the wholeness of grace. We can take it like this. See, the I, when the I is love, having self-respect for itself or loving itself, is what we call as grace, is what we call as the firmament of grace. Now, that is what the seeker in the path of Siddhanta is seeking. That is not anything apart from the I, which we call as Swarupa in Jnana. So in surrender, where do we come? We come to the I, which we call as the fullness of love. When we do self-enquiry, we use the I to burn the thoughts. But then when the I is standalone and it is shining, the Jnanamargi realizes that I itself is Sanjeevani, is itself the fullness of grace. How does the Jnanamargi come to the grace? By burning, by making the I pointed and a Jnana enquiry, the vasanas are all burned till the Swarupa alone is shining. But what happens when the vasanas are all burnt is that I itself is felt as the grace underlying the triad, underlying the Triputi. This Purana is not only the pinpointed laser which can break, which can burn the vasanas, but as a relaxed I, it is the Adhara, it is the love, fullness of love, unconditional love, which underlies all creation and allows us sadhana. as the fullness of grace. Without that grace, sadhana is not possible. So we find that both bhakti, where in surrender we come to grace, and then that gets purified or that gets finished, ended in complete removal of anavam into the pureness of jnana. In jnana marga, what we do, we use the pointedness of inquiry to burn away the vasanas till the unconditional consciousness alone is there. That unconditional consciousness is itself felt as the sanjeevani, the healer. Any psychological pain, you go to the II, somebody has hurt you, there is no solution sought in the relative area. You remain calm. The ego which was hurt becomes quiet. The grace rises and heals. The pain, one can feel the pain being consumed by the grace. That is why Unadal Khan, it is said. In the path of bhakti, we and our possessions become the food of God. And another way to look at this, we saw that in jnana, we burn the vasanas, come to the light, and see that that light itself is the love referred in Bhakti Marga. In Bhakti Marga, like Mudaliar Party, Ramnath Brahmachari, we surrender. We don't know anything about intellect. We don't know anything about data and thoughts. But we surrender in simple emotional surrender. But later on, when we come to the koshas of mind and intellect, the same surrender helps. ಅವರೇ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ. The one who took care of me as far as food was concerned will take care of what I should learn, will take care of the paths of right and wrong, the paths of knowledge and ignorance. Mudaliar Party becomes a jnani through surrender itself. There are many enquirers who understand Bhakti Marga on completion of inquiry. I have come in that way. I have been allowed by Bhagavan to complete in Jnana Marga, but the greatness of Bhakti Marga I could understand by serving RMCL in the Jnana Marga itself. In RMCL, many of the devotees in our home itself, 2-3 devotees, they are all practicing the Bhakti Marga. But life has, Bhagavan has allowed me to come through Jnana Marga, through the inquiry, burn it off, but have great respect for the Bhakti Margis who come through the path of grace. So the Bhakti and Jnana are really inseparable. And in one secret behind the Jnana Marga is that who am I is the Atma Samarpana. We were discussing this very morning that how, see, to do who am I, you have to surrender all other thoughts. The thought can be about your property, about your family, about this whole world, about the waking state, whatever it is. Unless you surrender the thought, you cannot offer the I. So what is technically called as Jnana Marga is actually very simple Atma Samarpana. The beauty is Atma Samarpana to the existing truth will not be allowed unless you surrender the malas, the 3 types of malas that are there. Unless you surrender them, the I will not be offered to the Self Supreme. These nomenclatures are all just mere differences which fall away in Jnana. In what is called as surrender and let go in Bhakti Marga is consciously let go in Jnana Marga. Once you complete Jnana Marga and come to that pure I where no other vasana is there, you relax in that I, that itself becomes fullness of love. You understand that is the healer that is supporting the triad. There is absolutely no difference between Bhakti and Jnana. What is called as Akanda Akara Vritti in Bhakti is the Spurana in Jnana. These nomenclatures are only because of the differences in the sadhakas. Some of us identify with the intellect. Some of us identify with the emotions. So only the names are given differently so that we will be all enticed away from this fire-filled world where whatever you hold, oh, this is going to be there with me, push, like that in fire it vanishes. Don't get caught in such a world, children. Come to me, says the Swarupa, by either giving us Bhakti Marga or Jnana Marga. Once you come to the end, you understand the beauty with which the Supreme has designed this whole game. How through love or through Vichara come to the same place. Let us sit in Atma Vicharam, which is nothing but Atma Samarpan to the truth. For the next 15 minutes, let us sit in Atma Vicharam. Ujjwalji, you will help us out again. Thank you.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. May I request Venkatesh ji to give us the summing up remarks. Namo Ramana, sir.
Namo Ramana. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jnanamulam Guru Murtihi, Pujamulam Guru Mantramulam Vakyam Mokshamulam Guru Mokshamulam Guru Namo Ramana. Let's look at our lives. When we went through our studies, what did we do? We studied hard. We read everything. We from end to end, first sheet, first page to the last page of the textbook. We read. We did so many tests here and there. But then finally, what did we do? We went to the temple. We go to the temple and say, God, I've studied. I put in my effort. Now it's all left to you. Now what happens is you have to give me an easy paper, or you have to give me questions that for which I know the answers, or you should not give me peace of mind. You should not allow me to get tension when I have the question paper in front of me, so that I don't go blind. Or I must get a paper where which I will pass this, get minimum 35 marks at least. I must do that. So imagine, we have studied so hard, put all our effort in the gaining the knowledge, but then you go to the temple and say, God is not going to write your examination. He's not. You are going to write your examination. But why do you go to God? There is a sense of surrender. There is a sense of bhakti. There is a sense. So knowledge and bhakti, we don't know. But it always meets. So if you have all the knowledge and you don't have bhakti, means you don't have bhakti to God, then what happens? You may have great arrogance that, oh, I can solve every question that comes, and the question paper comes. And I remember one classmate of mine, he used to read he knew answer for every question. And but what happened? He could only solve 60% of the marks, and he used to get 60 out of 100. He couldn't write more than 60 because he had read so much. He could write beautifully about 60 marks only. Now look at, so what happens? There is a convergence and there is a sense of surrender. This is what we call that meeting of bhakti and jnana, and this is what we call Shivam, whatever we call Shivam, is that's the meeting point. Let's look at the great singer. What was her name? I forget. I remembered it just now, but I forgot it.
MS
Uh,
Subbulakshmi, is it?
MS Lakshmi. Thank you. So MS Lakshmi. So what happens? Now, if she has to perform for a particular song, she will sing, she will practice it 200 times. Imagine, a great singer like Subbalakshmi, she will practice the song 200 times. Why? Because she will learn it. She's singing about God. That is greatest knowledge. She's talking about about the greatest knowledge of God. That's what most of the songs that she used to sing. And what she used to sing it with great bhakti, with great love for God. So, in her love for God, there should be absolutely not an iota of giving away. There should be total love for God. So, in her case, also, what would happen is she would practice so much that it would become part of her. That when she was singing, she used to not look at the words at all. It was all that was coming out from inside. It was as if God is singing from that body. It was like that. So this is again a beautiful convergence. If you really put your heart and soul into anything with great knowledge and with great bhakti, then what happens? Then God takes over. It's no more you who are the doer, but it's only God. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana. Namo Ramana. Thank you.
Namo Ramana, sir.
Thank you.
May I request Vaibhavji and Pratnama to commence the chanting.
नमो रमण भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितम् श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्विमात्रम् भुवनं समस्तम् गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरम् चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि ॐ महासेन महंसेन जाताय नमः ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः ॐ गुरवे नमः ॐ अखण्डसंहिताकाराय नमः ॐ महोजसे नमः ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः ॐ नाचदविभूलीनमानसाय नमः ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः ॐ श्रीमद्वादशान्तमहास्तले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः ॐ परमार्थविधे नमः ॐ तीव्राय नमः ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः ॐ पितुरादेशतः षोडशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः ॐ तपोमयाय नमः ॐ उदासीनाय नमः ॐ महायोगिने नमः ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः ॐ कुशाग्रदिये नमः ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः ॐ सवित्रे नमः ॐ स्थिराय नमः ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः ॐ पुल्लम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः ॐ चन्द्रिकासुसहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः ॐ चूतवाट्यं समासीनाय नमः ॐ चूडिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः ॐ विराजतचराकृतये नमः ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः ॐ पूर्णाय नमः ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः ॐ गम्भीराय नमः ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः ॐ दक्षिणास्यनिभाय नमः ॐ धीराय नमः ॐ दक्षिणास्यन्मुखाय नमः ॐ स्वराजे नमः ॐ महर्षये नमः ॐ भगवते नमः ॐ ईड्याय नमः ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः ॐ विमलाय नमः ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः ॐ आप्ताय नमः ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः ॐ समदृशे नमः ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः ॐ सत्याय नमः ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः ॐ श्रीशोणाचलरिद्बोधस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्टे नमः ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः ॐ गणेशमुनिवृन्देन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः ओम गीतोपदेश सारादि ग्रंथ संचिन्न संशयाय नमः। ओम वर्णाश्रम मतातीताय नमः। ओम रसज्ञाय नमः। ओम सौम्याय नमः। ओम आत्मवते नमः। ओम सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ओम सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ओम आत्मारामाय नमः। ओम महाभागाय नमः। ओम मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ओम विनताय नमः। ओम विनुताय नमः। ओम विप्राय नमः। ओम मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ओम पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ओम दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ओम मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ओम दीक्षान्तिकरसानिध्याय नमः। ओम स्वर्णाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ओम अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ओम संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ओम षोडाशविशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ओम हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ओम अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ओम नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ओम कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ओम शूद्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ओम गुहाय नमः। ओम दण्डपाणये नमः। ओम कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ओम भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ओम स्कन्दाय नमः। ओम देवतमाय नमः। ओम अमर्त्याय नमः। ओम सेनान्ये नमः। ओम पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ओम श्रीरमणभगवते नमः। ओम श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनाम पूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्यार्जनीं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रह सुप्रवाहविवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः त्रिन्निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासेकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
नमो रमणा। नमो रमणा वैभव जी प्रार्थना में। नमो रमणा वेंकटेश जी। नमो रमणा उज्जवल जी एंड रेवती माँ। नमो रमणा टू ऑल।